Hello, everybody, and welcome. It is Benivo Bites. We're live. Hi there to Aaron from Bangalore. I see people coming in from all over the world, to Ray from Tippett Richardson in Vancouver. People are coming in from all over the world. We've got an amazing show lined up for you today. It is, of course, Benivo Bites, which is the world's first mobility tech show. And you know how it works. Join the conversation, write in the comments box. We want to know who's out there. Hi there, Emily. Good to see you. Join in the conversation, write in the comments box, and tell us a bit about who you are, where you're coming from, and all your news. And we've got a really, really exciting session for you today. We're going to be talking about technology at GE. GE is obviously one of those companies that everybody knows, everybody's heard of, an amazing, amazing company, one of the most highly regarded and longest standing companies in the US, indeed in the world. And we're going to be talking all about what GE are doing. They're doing some pretty exciting stuff. And I see both Julia Grzeda there said hi, as well as Troy Pariag, who's going to be our ChangeMaker today. So good to see that we've got everybody, the team is here. Let me tell you about what we've got coming up over the next couple of weeks. So what we've got, as I said, today we're going to be talking about a live case study about how GE is using technology, in particular Benivo technology, to enhance their employee experience and indeed manage their program effectiveness. But then next week, on The View from the Top, we've got a completely different subject. Next week on The View from the Top, we're going to be talking about remote working. Now, that obviously is the big subject that has come out of the last 2 years of the pandemic. The whole move to remote working is a shift that I think none of us saw happening quite as quickly as it did happen. As they say, necessity is the mother of invention, and no doubt the pandemic just changed the ways that we all work forever. So we're going to be talking about remote working, and our special guest next week, I'm delighted to say, are Morgan Crosby. Morgan is the strategy director at Air Inc., and she will be joined by Emma Balagan. And Emma is the lead for global mobility in Europe for EA, for Electronic Arts. And they are a company that really has done a lot of work around remote working. In fact, I think their entire mobility team works remotely. So that's going to be what we're talking about next week. And it's pretty exciting stuff. Now, one thing we do each week, of course, is we share a little bit of breaking news. So let me just tell you about what's been going on in the world of global mobility this week. So here we go. Here is some breaking news from the world of global mobility. So congratulations to everybody who has been promoted, taken on new roles. Yeah, I saw Alex Felstead is out there with his 2-week-old baby in his arms. So many congratulations to you, Alex. It didn't hit breaking news, but you get a very personal shout out from me. So congratulations to everybody with new roles. Not only is this a show where we share all the latest news, it's also a show where you can get your credits. And I'm delighted to say that we have credits, CPE credits. So if you want your ERC credits, your worldwide ERC, the GMS or the CRP credits, then that's the number up there, 16873. And if you need HRCI or Sherman credits, they are provided to us courtesy of our good friends at Rocket Mortgage. So a big shout out to them. And by the way, they had an amazing advert during the Super Bowl. I saw it on Catch Up. So congratulations to everybody on Rocket Mortgage for everything that they've done out there. So those are your credits. What we're going to do now is we're going to move on to our immigration update. And as ever, I'm delighted to say we have with us the one and only Julia Onslow-Cole, who's going to be giving us this week's immigration update.
Hi, Brian.
Hi, Julia. How are you? And what's your news this week?
Oh, well, I just wanted to say congratulations to Alex. That's so sweet about the birth of his daughter. So you've only got to have 3 more, Alex, and then you've got the same amount of daughters as me.
There's a thought, Alex. Okay. So, Julia, where in the world are we going to talk about immigration today?
We're going to talk about China, Hong Kong, and Singapore today.
Okay, well, let's start off with China and Hong Kong, shall we?
Yeah, and thanks to Becky Shear from Beijing for this. But the Chinese government issued some official figures about the flows of people in and out of China. And they said that since COVID, it's been reduced by 66%. So that's really quite a huge number. And the zero COVID policy is still in place in China. So if you're working in China and you need to leave, then you have to apply to get back in. And in many cases, you have to stay for 7 days in your departure city. Now, the big news is that the dependent application visas are getting very difficult to obtain. We're seeing a huge number of refusals. We're seeing numbers where we just don't get any response. And so it's really, really difficult. And if you don't have a dependent visa invitation approval letter, then you just can't bring your dependent in. And we did warn about this. We did give some sort of warnings about it a few weeks ago that we thought it was going to become like this. And so it's played out. The other thing to say is we did have like massively high hopes that after the Beijing Olympics, we would see some loosening up in China, but that's just not come. In fact, if anything, things have tightened up. So there's the Paralympics, and then there's this big exhibition that they're working up towards, which is a huge global import and export exhibition. But as you know, for the Olympics, they just created a complete bubble, and people just had to watch it on TV. So, it's a bit disappointing that things are not opening up quicker. In Hong Kong, they've got 5,000 COVID cases. And obviously, that's not very much considering what other countries have. But this has just made them go into even a more severe zero COVID policy.
Because they did have a big zero tolerance policy, didn't they?
Huge, huge. And it's really, really affecting companies now in Hong Kong. There are now no direct flights from an increasingly number of countries. The quarantine has even increased from where it was before. So, many companies are looking seriously at what to do, and people, there's great hardship. There's great hardship, particularly with people who are in Hong Kong and they're people who have sick relatives or elderly parents. And they just can't, they just cannot travel, not with those quarantine policies. Now, turning to Singapore, you'll remember that Singapore doesn't have a zero COVID policy, and it's really trying to open up. And literally, there's some breaking news in Singapore. And the big change is that the government has just announced that you've no longer got to do pre-entry approval process, which is amazing development, really, really positive. They're still struggling with cases. There's 26,000 cases, which is, it's very high, really.
Place,
yeah, but it's very laudable that they're still going towards this zero COVID policy. And one of the things that they've done this week is they're saying that if you have COVID and you've stayed at home for 7 days, but you're still testing positive, you can actually go out and about. And that's a mega thing. And I actually speaking to our partner, Mark Buchanan, and he's got a couple of children. And one of them was actually testing still positive on the 7th day, but he was so happy because he could go back to school. I think, just generally things are looking up in Singapore. There's more travel bubbles with the Philippines. The UAE and Qatar is about to have one. But what's causing employers a lot of problems, and it's just not immigration, it's sort of more global mobility HR issues, is that you will recall that I said that from the 1st of February, you need to be fully vaccinated to file an application and work in Singapore and to renew. And what's happened is that the burden is not just on the individual to say, yes, I'm fully vaccinated, but they're putting the burden on employers. And the employers actually also have to certify that the person is vaccinated. And obviously this is incredibly difficult and is a little bit of a minefield as to how are you going to say that? And also the rules are very, very complicated, because fully vaccinated doesn't just mean that you've had 2 vaccinations. It means you've had the booster and you've got to have it within so many days of your second vaccine, etc. So that's really causing a lot of problems. But the sort of real big news is that there was a new budget, and in the budget they announced they were raising the salary thresholds for the employment pass and the S pass. So employers are already struggling with those salary levels, but they're now going up. So they're going up quite significantly. £5,000 Singapore dollars per month you've got to earn for the employment pass, and if it's a financial institution, it's 5,500. From September, that's those two numbers, 5,000, 5,500 are increasing to 5,500 to 6,000, and then from September 2023, it's going to apply to renewals. So this is what's been happening before, is that you'll go off a cliff if you get to the renewal and you're not paying those kind of salaries. And obviously it's a huge HR headache, because you'll have to bring on the rest of your workforce, if you're suddenly giving these big, huge rises. So that's it.
Okay, so thank you so much for that, Julia. I know we haven't touched on Ukraine today, but I know what a fast-moving situation that is. But if I could ask you to maybe touch on that next week, and I don't know if there's anything you can say now to reassure people.
Well, we did touch on it, didn't we, a couple of weeks ago in preparation, and we just said that at that point it wasn't too late, that there was still embassies open, you could still apply for visas. Obviously the situation unfortunately is deteriorated very fast in Ukraine, and it's very difficult. A lot of the diplomatic staff have actually left, and just as we speak, the situation is getting more and more difficult for people that want to leave. Obviously there might be people that feel they want to leave from Russia, and the visa situation there is this, obviously it's still all in play, but yes, we can sort of go over that next week, and as well as talking about remote workers.
Okay, that's fantastic. So thank you so much for that, Julia. See you again next week. What we're going to do now is we're going to bring on our ChangeMaker. We like to have a ChangeMaker each week. ChangeMakers are global mobility professionals who are sharing their passion for technology with us at Benivo, but also are supporting a charity that is dear to their heart. And the purpose of this slot is to find out a little bit about them, but also to find out about the charity they are supporting. So everybody, please put your hands together virtually, show the love, hit the applause button, hit the like button to say a big thank you to Julia Onslow-Cole, but also to welcome our very special ChangeMaker of the Week, Troy Pariag from IBM. Troy, how are you doing?
I'm doing very well, Brian. How are you?
And whereabouts are you, Troy?
I am in Toronto, Canada, just on the outskirts in Pickering.
Okay. And tell us a bit about yourself and your role. Obviously, you're with IBM, and I think everybody in the audience will have heard of IBM, or that's my fair guess. But tell us a little bit about what you do there.
Sure. So I've been with IBM for about 25 years. I've worked in about 14 different jobs throughout that period of time. And about 10 years ago, I started working more closely with global mobility. And basically, the team that I work with, we have, three primary areas of responsibility. The first being we have an advisory role to enable consultants and project teams to take advantage of our capabilities worldwide. So resources and capabilities from India, China, the Philippines, Latin America, you name it. We also manage a local plus employment program, and it sits within the business. It is, it's somewhat separate from the global mobility programs overall in IBM, but this one specifically, it's a high volume program for consultants coming into Canada to work on client projects. And, with all the changes that the Canadian government has had over the past number of years, we've actually started playing a more, a role within the advocacy for Canadian immigration legislation, working with our governmental programs executive team.
Okay. And obviously you've got a passion for technology, but tell us about the charity that you're supporting.
Yeah, so I first learned about TBB back in 2019.
That's Talent Beyond Boundaries.
Yes, Talent Beyond Boundaries. They were starting to open their Canadian office. And at the time, I was on the board of directors of the Canadian Employee Relocation Council. And we had just gone through a reevaluation of our mission and vision statements and thought, this is a good time to reevaluate. We had been, our charity had been Doctors Without Borders, MSF, for about 10 years. And we thought, a good time to reevaluate. And when this came up, when we were just blown away by just how closely the mission, vision, objectives of TBB matches, basically our organization, but also almost every service member or corporate member, just how closely aligned it is to the mobility industry. So it was a natural fit for us.
Okay. Well, so Troy, we'll get you back on the show another time later on in the year to have a real deep dive into everything that you're doing. But today's aim was really just to find a bit about you and a little bit about Talent Beyond Boundaries. I mean, Marina Brizar from Talent Beyond Boundaries has in fact been on the show before. It's a great charity, and I know a number of our change makers are supporting them, and we really value having you as a change maker and being one of our advisors. What I'd like to do now, though, is to move on. I'm going to bring our producer onto the show, Tally, to give us some news updates. So we'll say goodbye to Troy for the moment. Take care. And we're going to bring on Tally. So let's just bring Tally onto the screen. So Tally, what's the news from behind the scenes today?
Hi, Brian. Hi, Brian. So yeah, our show today will focus, as many people know, on the recruitment and onboarding of young talents. And it's a good opportunity to share with you that in March, our CEO, Nitzan, will be in New York to finalize a program for such young recruitees. I still can't share the name of the company that is setting this program, but they're following similar programs that are already being used by Google and by GE, which you're going to hear about today. So anyway, Nitzan is coming, and it's his first post-pandemic business trip. And I know he really misses those face-to-face meetings. So if anyone in the audience is from New York or from Seattle, because he's going to get to Seattle too, this will be a fantastic opportunity for a quick coffee chat or for getting some updates about all what is new in global mobility technology. So I'm in the background, so just let me know if you're around, and I'll be happy to set up a meeting with him. And yeah, so other than that, Brian?
And so thank you for that, Tally. And of course, the other thing that we've been working on is our Rising Stars. And nominations have been open. I've got a little video that I'll share with you just to remind you. But Tally, can you just remind the audience, how are we doing with nominations already for Rising Stars?
Wow. Actually, we've been blown away by the number of nominations we already got, but please keep sending them. If you have any colleagues, clients, or just any people that have impressed you along the way and may qualify as rising stars, so under the age of 35 or less than 10 years in mobility, please come and nominate them. I will send again the link in the comments. And let's see the video.
And just to remind everybody, let's show the video. And yes, please do nominate people for the Rising Stars. Okay, so nominations are now open for the top 100 Rising Stars. Get out there and nominate somebody. You can nominate anybody you want as long as they are a corporate global mobility professional who is either under the age of 35 or who has less than 10 years global mobility experience. Anyway, let's now get into the subject du jour. We're going to be talking about GE, everything they do, and I shall move on and introduce you to our very special guest, Julia Grzeda. So let's move on to talking about technology at GE. Julie, how are you doing? How are you?
Hi, Brian. I'm well, thanks.
Good, and welcome to the show. We're going to bring on Matt and Beth to join us in a short while, but let's just do the one-to-one stuff first. Just, Julie, tell me a bit about yourself. You're a bit of a GE lifer, I believe.
I am. I following undergrad, I interned with GE in their HR leadership program, and then went on to join the HR leadership program. I've been with GE for over 30 years in a variety of different capacities, but certainly following a people leadership in human resources roles.
Okay, so you've been with GE for over 30 years, you said, and we're talking about the leadership program, and so you're a graduate of that program yourself. I
am. I graduated myself. I've helped recruit for it. I've helped to be involved in the programs throughout, and now this is sort of the center of what I do for GE, is early career talent. So
you're from Chicago originally, aren't you?
I am.
And then, so where have you been? Where did the program take you on your rotations?
Well, so for my rotations, I was in Fort Wayne, Indiana, and in Nashville, Tennessee, and another small town outside of Bloomington, Indiana, while I was actually on the rotational program.
Okay, and then where else did you go after that?
Since then, I've been in a few other places. So I've relocated, I think, 6 times, probably been in 6 or 7 locations, I guess, including remote at the moment. So.
Okay, and at the moment you're out in Connecticut, is that right?
I am.
Okay, so you've been around, you've this whole sort of moving experience that we're talking about, moving to a new location, starting there. It's something that is pretty familiar with you very much from a personal and career perspective.
That's right. The good, the bad, and the ugly. But certainly it has helped that GE has, supported those moves pretty nicely. And I think with all the folks on this particular audience, I think this is a pretty important moment that matters to most anybody, whether you're early career or not.
Yeah, and I mean, GE has been famous for its early careers, its rotational leadership program, for a long time. And I'll just ask the audience, don't give the game away. We did actually touch on this on a show about 9 months ago with your colleague Imola Richards, but I suspect some people might have seen that show, but I suspect many didn't. But question for the audience: how long do you think GE have been running a rotational leadership program for? Try and put your answers in the comments box. How many years do you think they've been running a rotational leadership program? So we'll see what answers we get coming in as we go forward. But certainly, you've been involved with this program for a long time, Julie. That's right. Yes. And you must have moved thousands of people through rotations in your time.
That is true. So obviously, it takes a village. There's quite a number of people involved, but the size of GE's program is pretty large. It's certainly peaked in the over 5,000 people at any given time, but these days it's probably closer to about 1,400 people at any given time, and of that, a good third of them are moving at any given time, for the rotations. So yeah, lots of movement over the years.
Okay, so Jody is saying that GE have been running the program for 30 years. I wonder if we've got any other guesses from people. We won't give the game away at that point, but 30 years would be quite some time to be running a leadership program. But I will give you a clue. It is actually more than 30 years they've been running this leadership program. Let's see. So we've got another one coming in here. In fact, where is that? Troy's
taking a guess.
Troy's taking a guess. Yeah, I seem to be losing that. I'll put that back up there. 50 years with Troy. So there we go. More. We're going up. Are we going up? What else have we got? We've got Yuko has come on and she's saying 30. Well, let's just.
I know some of my colleagues are out there, so they're allowed to take a guess too. They
okay, yeah.
Answer,
but. Okay, let's see what other people say. But I can tell you, what have we got? I can show you one of the recent intakes. So here we have. This was, I think, a year or so ago. Here was an intake, and so that's your intake. Stephanie said 36 years. So here's your intake there of, I don't know whether that was last year.
One of our recent groups is pre-pandemic, but so a couple of years ago, but that was one of our HR groups, yes.
And a really diverse group there. And I love the fact that you've even got a bottle of milk in the front. and one of your new recruits with son or daughter as well. Okay, but in fact, we'll tell you the answer. Julie, do you want to say when this started?
Sure. Well, so over 100 years ago, actually, we started with our financial management program that was a way to build and invest in talent. And we've added quite a number of critical functions of the company, engineering, of course, a very important one. But yeah, we've been adding and improving upon critical functions of the talent pipeline for over 100 years.
And I've got a photo here actually of your sort of leadership program from 1924. Wow. So there we go. Obviously, from a diversity perspective, very,
come a long way.
If we compare that to the current one. So yeah, so that's that. But it, all credit. I think it's probably the 108 years. I think someone said to me. So that's probably the only leadership development program in the world that has been through 2 pandemics.
Fair enough.
For the Spanish flu too. Anyway, let's move on a bit now. So Julie, just tell me, about the power of welcome, about why it's so important for you to have a real good welcome experience for your early career people. And tell us also maybe a bit about volumes. I mean, how many people are we talking about?
Yeah, well, so first I'll say yes, the power of welcome is incredibly important. Being able to celebrate acceptance, keep in touch until that important day and onboard people so that they're ready to go is super important. We have tried a number of things over the years, but we are very globally spread and we do have some volume to us. So we probably bring on, for GE Aviation specifically, where I focus my attention these days, we bring on over 800 folks a year. That includes both interns and co-ops and our graduate programs. But certainly getting that right, whether you're in India or the UK or a small town in Alabama in the US, it's important that we get that right so that our new hires are ready to go and feeling belonging even before they start.
So to make sure I understand the terms, I mean, the early career people, they are coming out of university. They're typically undergraduates. They're probably aged about, say, 22-ish. And then you've got the interns who are doing it during a summer vacation, maybe at the end of their first year at college. So they're probably aged about 19 or so. And then the co-ops are people who are coming out as part of their degree. So they're doing a semester with you.
That's right. So interns and co-ops are just a matter of how during your university years, typically undergrad years, but it could be at graduate schools as well, or master's programs, just how you spend time getting work experience during your studies. So whether you come for 10 or 12 weeks in a summer, or whether you spend a longer period of time on a co-op program back and forth for multiple times, those are important ways to gain professional experience and also to get to know a company as well.
Okay.
And so early career spans that entire spectrum, from university interns and co-ops all the way through graduates of both undergrad and even master's programs in some case, though I would say the bulk of our entry or new hires is in engineering at the undergraduate level.
And I know from our perspective, from Benivo perspective, we serviced you as GE, but you're in the process of splitting into, 4 business units and then 3 separate listed companies. So obviously the technology had to move to be much more business unit specific. But just tell us about what GE is doing for those who don't know, because it's pretty radical, this shake-up of GE that's going on.
It probably makes sense to just note that, the work that we've done with Benivo to create a welcoming start and to help with that onboarding is still important across all of these spans. So we'll talk about that in a moment. But yeah, GE's been going through quite a number of changes that you probably have not missed at least a couple headlines about this. And most recently, earlier this year, announced that or I guess it was in late last year, announced that we would be heading in a direction of creating 3 standalone public companies over the next several years. Part of that journey has been to really understand what was going to get done at the business level versus corporate. So in something like our leadership programs, we still, each of our businesses are very committed to investing in growing and building talent, getting them off to the right start. And certainly with our onboarding as well. But this means that we have to create some new ways of decentralizing that effort, standing up and making sure that those are all in place, and maybe taking on some opportunities to improve what we do within our different industries as well. So as a part of that, I moved from GE Corporate and I moved into GE Aviation, and with my fabulous colleagues, we're working on not only implementing Benivo and Welcome, but all of our leadership programs with even more flair for the aviation industry and aerospace, so that we can do that well independently by the time we split a few years from now. GE Aviation will split off first at the end of this year or by early next year. Our energy business, which includes both gas power and renewable energy, will be the year following. And GE Aviation, of course, will be the GE business remaining as an independent company as well.
Wow. So really busy times, and obviously all sorts of HR related issues to do with splitting up a business like that. We had Peter Clark from PwC on last week, and obviously they're going something similar in the fact that
that's right.
They're demerging out a business unit from a larger business. So it's obviously something that, yeah, we're seeing.
We've seen quite a number of those headlines. You're right.
Yeah.
This is the idea of a conglomerate has definitely fallen out of fashion, and the more industry focused businesses is definitely the direction.
Okay, so we're going to move on now, and I'd like to bring Matt Chic and Beth Nielson in. They both work with you with the technology for GE. So there's Matt, and let's bring in Beth. So Matt, I think I'll start with you if I may. I'm seeing a little mute sign there. You've noticed. So let's just talk about how GE are using Benivo technology to support their early career employees and to manage effectiveness and efficiency. So tell us a bit about that.
Yeah, happy to. So hi, everybody. And I will pick up on what Julie had kind of set as the context, which is that we have been working with GE for quite a few years now. And an extension of working with GE Aviation is really carrying forward the themes that have been critical for the talent team under Julie's direction for the entire time. And what we have it organized under is to work with the GE talent function to invest in moments that matter in the life cycle of a candidate. So we really have them broken down into 3 specific moments that we build an experience around for new joiners to the company. And that moment number 1 is the offer. Immediately after it, I've just accepted an offer, and that's a big moment in the relationship between me as the candidate and GE as my new and most often first employer for many of the candidates who are joining.
Yeah, I think there's actually a great point to make there, is that what we're talking about here are these people are very young kids, I suppose. I don't mean that in any pejorative sense, but for many people, they're moving for their very first time. They may never have moved out of state or even moved more than sort of 100 miles from where they live, and they're moving somewhere completely different. And there's also presumably a big, not just emotional challenge for them, but also a duty of care on the employer, on GE, to help them as they move into this new location and start their new, and in many cases first job.
That's right. It's certainly the beginning of their professional life in multiple ways, and certainly we want to make that moment special.
And so moment number one is right after the offer, which goes into a block of moment number two, which might start to trigger a bit of anxiety after a bit of excitement. So we have this kind of labeled and thought of as the pre-boarding phase. So this is the phase of the relationship after I know I'm going to start work, but I haven't started yet, and I have a gap to fill in my journey. And then the third and final moment that matter is moments. Third and final of the moments that matter is actually that day one experience. So getting started, moving on my rotation and actually getting stuck into my work. So we have a few examples of how we've invested in each one of those moments on the GE for Aviation platform, and this is following on from the changes at GE. We have had so our platform delivery is global for the entire GE program, and we have further personalized each one of those experiences for the moments that matter in the joining experience, the relocation support for people who are rotating, including financial support that we're going to talk about, and we have personalized each one now to each of the to-be independent groups for that GE is splitting into. So today we're going to look at GE Aviation, which is where Julie is heading things up.
Okay, so if anyone's got any questions whilst we go through, then please do put them in the comments box. So Matt, do you want me to share your screen now?
Yes, that would be great.
Let's do that. There we go.
All right, so I am here on the dashboard. I have just accepted my offer. I have been welcomed into the process of joining GE Aviation, and we're going to look at a few things that we're doing with this digital experience to invest in those moments that matter. All right, so let's say right at the beginning, I am. It's pure excitement. I've just gotten my first job, and one of the things that I have been notified about that is a really nice touch is that I'm going to have a welcome experience. So, I'm going to have a welcome experience gift. I have a gift here from GE Aviation for me, and I'm also going to be able to contribute back as part of that experience. So here I have what I need to do in my getting started. I have everything later on for about moving to my new destination, and I'm very happy to see that I have financial support for me. So let's take a look at that gift that I am pretty excited about. This is a 3-part gift experience, and it begins with GE Aviation celebrating the fact that I'm going to be joining the team, and I get to pick a gift that is right up my alley. So I personally am quite a coffee lover, so I'm just going to go ahead and invest in getting more of what I really like to do. So as a first nice touch, we have a gift from GE Aviation as part of my joining experience. Now we have the second part of it, which is that GE Aviation and I believe in supporting causes that are doing good in the world. So after I've received a gift, now I can turn around and give a gift. And I can give that gift of one day of medical support, or a school kit, or helping a child learn online, or an environmental cause that I would like to support. But right now I want to support one day of medical support, because that is the theme of the day. So Benivo is going to make that donation on behalf of me and on behalf of GE Aviation. I have earned my Gift It Forward badge. I confirm my choices. And the final thing that I'm going to be excited to see here is that I can continue doubling down on helping that cause that I wanted to support by sharing information about my joining experience to GE and about my relocation experience when I go on rotation. And I do that right over here on the community section and at various places throughout the platform experience. So that's a nice initial welcome into my future experience immediately post the offer. Another thing that I'm really happy to see is I've got a dashboard here of who my key contacts are. So at GE Aviation, I have my executive program manager, and then I'm also going to have local contacts at each place where I'm doing a rotation. So now let's take the moment forward, and we're going to go into the moment between. I've accepted my offer. It's quite a nice moment, but now there's space to fill. And I'm eager to learn about what this experience is going to be like. We have built an entire work-life section with content that is prompted for me to check out at various moments, depending on how long I have before I'm going to start. And these are all things that I can do on my phone, and I'm prompted as to what to check out in sequence. So we're going to take a look at some of the key things that the GE Aviation team has wanted to reinforce in the pre-boarding phase. All right, thing number one is why our employees are GE proud, and this is a first step into the culture at GE. And I'm going to learn a little bit about what the people who are working here believe and what's important to them and how I can be part of that. So first, let's take a look at what GE employees have to say. So I've got the benefit on this platform of having insights from people who have done this exact same experience before. So wherever you see this icon, this is a data point. If we're talking relocation, which we'll look at in a minute, or the joining experience to the program. So I can browse what tips people have to say for me. There's a fairness and a strong emphasis on diversity, which we're going to see here. And I'm going to be able to learn how I can get involved with that process. I'm going to check out, I can check out videos. I can look at opportunities to get involved in groups supporting diversity and inclusion. And I can browse all of these themes at my leisure in exactly the way that I want to. So I see here all of the different opportunities to join employee resource groups. And let's say that I really want to dig in and learn more about that. I can do it right over here. So I get a full brief on each one of the employee resource groups to join, and I can pick the area. I can first hear why diversity is important directly from GE's Chief Diversity Officer, and then I can learn the details of each one of the groups that I have the opportunity to join, the ones that are going to be relevant for me. All right, so this is self-directed. I can browse at my leisure, but I'm also going to be prompted to check things out. So next, I might want to learn about my business unit. I want to learn the details and the history of GE Aviation, and I can do that right here, and I can go straight to what I want to look at. So let's say looking at the future.
Can I just ask Julia, bring her into the conversation? Julie, what sort of feedback do you get from your employees when they're seeing this? I mean, it seems amazing to me.
Yeah, no, and Brian, it's the quotes, the feedback, the engagement is excellent, and really this is because these are folks who just made one of the biggest decisions of their life is to say who they just said yes to for their professional start. So being able to give them some satisfaction to learn more about what they're walking into, maybe reduce anxiety about what to expect for day one. And for that matter, this is a population that often says yes almost 8 months before their start date. So keeping in touch to make sure that they start feeling a part of the company, can start learning more about what they're getting into is all important. That's why they can scroll it right away or later on. They have some time to just have access and answer their questions in context to learn more.
So this isn't just an onboarding facility. This is a pre-boarding.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct. A very important time between the time you say yes and day one, and at least using a very typical cycle, they may say yes in October or November of the school year, but by February they're wondering if they've been forgotten about or nervous about whether they still have a job. So making sure that we have ways to keep in touch with them, I think, are critically important, and certainly reduces the chances of reneging or changing their mind.
Absolutely. And I think we've talked about the welcome experience, but I think there's also a financial aspect. There's two, isn't there?
There absolutely is. So let's bring us forward in the journey to getting closer to that day one, getting moving on my rotation. One of the initial needs that I'm going to have as a very young person with my first job is that I probably need to pay for a few things in order to actually get myself set up and ready to start. So this is we have met that need with a very popular feature called Pay Later, and I'll pass to Beth to talk a little bit about what we're doing with.
And as I understand it, everything we're seeing here, this isn't a demo platform. This is the real, actual, live GE platform that we're seeing. Yeah. So Beth, tell us about the financial aspects.
Yes, thanks, Brian. So the first thing to say about this is that it's not really our idea, and it's come about because of real need. And as Julie was saying, this is something that is a real problem for people moving for their first job. They're coming from a background where maybe they don't have the finances in place to outlay large sums. And the first thing that they're asked to do if they're asked to relocate is often to put down a deposit on a house. Now that can be a month's rent, 2 months' rent, but it's an amount that they don't have at a time where they're already laying out for other bits of changes in their life, new clothes, for example, things that they need to be able to get ready to walk into that door on day one and start working for GE. So because of that, we recognize this as a problem. And we came up with the Pay Later solution. And this is an interest-free cash advance off payroll, nothing to do with GE. It's between Benivo and the employee. And as you can see, it's a cash advance. It's open to everybody. You don't have to take it. It's optional. And because of that, we've actually found that in addition to supporting early careers, this is a real game changer when it comes to diversity and inclusion. Because although traditionally people going into companies like GE may come from a background of parents who can afford to help them with that move, that isn't the case all the time, especially in these times of COVID. People are not financially stable, and that individual wants to take the job. And because of Pay Later, it means that can happen. We've got feedback from GE Aviation specifically, their employees who have used this, and they've given us 9.78 out of 10 as a score for how satisfied they are with Benivo. And I think in large part that's because of Pay Later. Other quotes include, it's really helpful to get my deposit paid. I needed to have money to pay rent in the city I'm moving to cover costs like storage boxes, and having this money has helped a lot. And it's hearing that feedback, and I know, Julie, you get fed this back from the team as well. It makes all the difference, because this is a real problem that is being solved because of Benivo. And other solutions out there, I've heard of people being charged by their current solution to make those payments, or just not being able to make them in advance of someone joining payroll. And that just doesn't work for this population, and may mean that you're missing out on that talent. So the Pay Later solution, it's really simple. The corporate, in this case GE, tell us how much they want to advance and when they want to advance it. Normally no more than a month in advance of someone starting. It's really for those big expenses such as housing. And then the employee just pays us back once they're on payroll, over 2 or 3 payments, because we know that once they start, they're no longer going to need those funds. So it's a really short-term temporary cash advance that we're really, really proud to have brought to the GE population. So Julie, I knew you'd already spoken
yeah,
to it.
No. You've pointed out something important. So many have sign-on bonuses, or they'll have a great paycheck once they start, but having the cash flow to make this transition prior to their first paycheck is really what this enables. And I do think this removes and really lowers the barriers for those relocating young professionals to have the cash flow, to have the confidence to establish themselves for this new job.
Okay, and one thing I'd like to ask you about is, we use the phrase the wisdom of the crowd or we sometimes call it social insights, but how people sort of help each other to learn about their new role. So if any of you could just tell me a little bit about what we're doing in terms of using the wisdom of the crowd to enhance the onboarding experience.
Yep.
If you'd like to jump in, Matt, I'm happy to compliment.
Absolutely. So yes, in several ways. So the wisdom of the crowd is at play in the beginning in the work life. Every spot where you see this icon has insights that have been submitted to the platform from my peers and people who have been in my shoes in the past, whether that is from top tips from a GE Aviation employee on how to make my experience as rewarding as possible, and into functional items like, I am going to move to a new city on rotation. I'm probably going to need to at least use a few services along the way in order to help me out. So here we have a full directory of support services available to me, and I can see that they have been star rated and reviewed by other people who have done this exact same move. And we also have tips and advice built into our destination module, which gives me a complete overview on exploring where to live, how to manage my housing search, very importantly for first-time young movers, avoiding scams and frauds, and then helping me do functional things like check my lease. And I can do I can go through these items at my leisure at the right time for me, and I can get tips and advice on renting essentials, negotiation from people who have done this in the past. So I know off the bat that I'm not doing it by myself. And if I want to connect with people live, I can also use the GE Aviation WhatsApp group, and I can get connected directly to people who are in the same position as me today. And I can also meet some of my future peers, whereas I probably wouldn't be able to meet them before day one.
And I mean, to me, looking at it, the thing about a relocation or a move is that I'm doing it for the first time. It's the first time I'm moving from location A to location B, but someone's done it before. And if only I could learn from the experience of those who've done it before, it is the wisdom of the crowd. You won't have those water cooler conversations that people used to have where they sort of sat around thinking, if only I'd known then what I know now, I would have done something completely different. Because to me, with a relocation, there's only ever really one question that anybody wants to know the answer to. And that question is, what do people like me do? And if you can actually get the answer to that, which is what we're doing with all this, in collating that so people can find out what people like me do, it makes the move a lot smoother. I know another feature that is in there, maybe just say a few words about it, is the roommate finder feature. So I don't know if, Matt, you could say a few words about that too, or Julie.
You want me to? Yes. Well, so certainly, we're building a community here. So being able to give each other advice, and for that matter, find out who they are, also helps facilitate the fact that folks will be interested in signing up for opting in, of course, to if they're interested in other folks that are looking for a home in the same location. So this is often a popular feature to find each other and to be able to share an apartment, etc. That's a popular choice. So the roommate finder is a way to opt in and do that on the Benivo platform. And I'll just say that, creating this platform, this technology to encourage them to comment and give that pass it along advice, pay it forward, and to help each other to connect about all these things, just really makes it happen rather than it sort of being left to chance.
That's right. And as I get to the end of, or as I have gone through the journey as one employee, I then start becoming the expert because I have my own experience. I have good information that I've collected along the way. And this product enables capturing that information and making it available to the people to follow. So whether it's on my move or life in the city where I'm doing my first rotation, settling in, renting, this is this is one of the benefits of using a central platform to collect those insights and gamify the experience to make it fun and help out the world as I'm doing it.
Okay, so thank you for that, Matt. Thank you, Julie. Thank you, Beth. I mean, we've scarcely touched the surface of what can be done or what is being done with this technology, and I know it's been very, very it's helped support GE. Also, when you've been going through a time of transition with all the changes. Let me bring on our other guests because we're pretty much out of time now. So I'm going to bring Troy back and Julia, and I'll bring our show producer back to Tally. So I just wanted to thank everybody for being on the show, especially to Julie for everything you've told us about what's going on at GE, and wishing you all the best with your journey as that demerger continues. To Troy for telling us about what you're doing with IBM, and as I said, we will get you back on the show another time to go more of a deep dive, and for telling us about the amazing charity that you support, and to thank you for the support you give us with our ChangeMakers initiative. To Julia, of course, many thanks as ever for your immigration updates. And to my colleagues, Matt, Beth, and Tally, many thanks for providing all the support and help as we put this show on the air today. To everybody in the audience, thank you all for tuning in. We'll be back next week when we're going to be talking about the future of remote working with Morgan Crosby from Air Inc. and with Emma Ballaghan from Electronic Arts EA. And we'll also be having our immigration and tax updates next week too. So thank you all, everybody, and have a great week. Take care.
Thank you.